So we know that compound interest is based on principal, how much money you have to invest, some interest rate, and then how many times you compound your interest in a year, along with the number of years you're going to leave it in that investment or in that account. We also talked about nominal rate really briefly yesterday. This will be more important when we start talking about credit cards, but I just want you to have this note here about nominal rates. But what I want to talk about now is how many times I should look at compounding interest. So we did an example where we compounded interest once in a year. So we calculated interest one time in the year, added that interest to our principal, and then calculated again. If I were to do that twice a year, or 4 times a year, or once a month, what would happen is every time I calculated interest, I would figure out what that interest is and then add that amount to the principal for the next compounding. So what we'll see is that when I'm talking about how many times should I compound my interest to get the greatest return, what we'll see is that more compoundings equals more money. So how many times should we compound our interest? As many as possible. And so we can make our M a really big number. We could make it 365, and then we would compound every day. We could take 365 and multiply it by 24, so we compound every hour or every minute or every second. And as we make M bigger and bigger and bigger, note that N, which is just M times years, will also get bigger and bigger and bigger. And what happens when we make these numbers really, really big is we actually get something called continuously compounded interest. And so we have a very similar formula for continuously compounded interest. And it's based on the number E, which you saw in Algebra 2. We're still getting an accumulated amount here. It's still based on our original principal, our rate, and this time N is just time, or number of years. Because E actually takes care of the M part of our formula up here. So what we're going to do now is just a few examples with compound interest. So we're going to identify all our pieces and plug them into either of our formulas. If it gives me how many times I compound in a year, we use the compound interest formula. If it says continuously compounded, we use the continuously compounded interest formula. So for number 6, it says find the accumulated amount and the interest earned for the following. 8,000 at 8% compounded annually. So it tells me how frequently I'm compounding. That's this formula, regular compound interest. So my accumulated amount would be 8,000 times 1 plus my rate is 8%, so 0.08 over, if we compound annually, that means our M is 1. And then our time is 5 years, so our exponent would be 5 times 1. Right? Since N is M times number of years. When I type this in my calculator, we come up with an accumulated amount of $11,754.60. So that's the total I have in my account. That includes the original principal and the interest that we've earned. My question also asked me for the interest earned. So to find just the interest, I would take that total and subtract off my original principal, which would give me $3,754.60 in just interest. You will have some quiz questions and test questions that ask you similar questions. What's the accumulated amount and what's the interest earned? So keep in mind that there are 2 steps to find both of those pieces. For part B, it says $3,500 at 12% compounded continuously for 10 years. Continuously means we use this formula with E. So my accumulated amount would be 3,500 times E to our rate is 12, so 0.12, times 10 for 10 years. And that gives me a total of $11,620.40. Again, that's our total interest plus the original amount. The interest alone would be that total, $11,620.40, minus the $3,500 that we originally invested, which would leave us just an interest amount of $8,120.40.